Howdy, howdy do, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And this is episode 296.
One day, I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
Our lives are different to anybody else's. That's the exciting thing. Nobody in the universe can do what we're doing.
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
You may be a doctor, but I'm the doctor. The definite article, you might say.
The trouble with time travel is, one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear, and it seems not a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
I am the doctor!
For now, for this moment, I am the doctor again.
The ground beneath our feet is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. And the entire planet is hurtling around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour. And I can feel it. We're falling through space, you and me.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect. But actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
I could be a curator. I'd be great at curating. I'd be the great curator. I could retire and do that.
I'm the doctor. I've lived for over 2,000 years, and not all of them were good. I've made many mistakes, and it's about time that I did something about that.
Bit of adrenaline, dash of outrage, and a hint of panic knitted my brain back together. I know exactly who I am. I'm the Doctor. Sorting out fair play throughout the universe.
Hey, you fans. Welcome back to another week. Hope you're keeping well and safe. You've had a cracking week and they've all managed to do something Doctor Who related. Yes. It's been a quite old week, dude, I must admit.
Yeah, well, apart from the gale force wind and
apart from that,
yeah, I feel like there's a hurricane going on outside. It's like really rough. Crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, apart from that, very quiet a week.
For old Doctor Who, indeed. Yeah, because we had quite a busy last couple of weeks. Or busy last week, where we spoke about the rumours around Jodie potentially leaving.
Yeah, nothing on that. No announcement from the BBC.
So. No, still no announcement.
No.
The only thing I've heard around that sort of thing is old Chibbers is definitely staying, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had some people get in contact to say that Chibbers is off as well at the same time. But yeah, I've also heard that he's sticking around as well for at least another season after 13. So, but yeah, it's interesting because normally that's really big news, isn't it? In our world, in terms of Doctor Who fandom, when we hear that a Doctor's leaving, normally it's like a thing that builds up over time, and by the time the announcement actually comes, we've already known about it for months on end. Yeah. But for some reason, this one's fallen flat completely. Like we had a real big week's worth of, oh my God, Jodie's going and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden, I haven't seen any YouTube videos about it. I haven't seen any blog posts or any other podcasters chatting about it really. So it's a bit of a flash in the pan thing, which is strange because over the past, I don't know, how long has Jodie been the Doctor now? What is it? It's 4 years. We've seen her on screen, 3 or 4 years, maybe 5.
Yeah, 2 series, but it's been about 3 years, hasn't it?
Something like that. Yeah, it's fandom has never shied away from talking about Jodie and Chibbers and all that stuff. So it's weird. It's weird that we've got nothing to talk about in terms of that news story.
Yeah, but, I was just laughing because do you remember when there was that thing about Chibnall storming off set? Chibnall's left. He's left the set and he's never coming back, and it turned out to just be a load of old rubbish. There's like rumours of Pete Matigue was taking over and he'd had to finish producing the series because Chibnall had stormed off. And so I don't know. Maybe maybe Jodie isn't leaving. Maybe it was all a lie. Yeah. But I think it's true. I think we'll know for sure. I think what normally happens is if they don't officially announce it, if it's true, So they don't officially announce it. The thing that gives it away is, so you get people that check IMDb and places like that. As soon as they see she's got another job or she's sort of being credited as appearing in something, that's normally an indication of, right, they're off. Because I don't think she can really film anything if she's doing Doctor Who, because it takes up so much of the year, doesn't it? I remember, wasn't that one of the things Capaldi said, that he loved the role, but it was exhausting. It literally is like non-stop filming for so many months a year, and you have to move away from your family for all that time, and it's quite a big commitment, isn't it, making Doctor Who? So
yeah, and I think it also depends on. I think it does depend also on what's going on with the show at the minute and who you are as a person. I know this is kind of obvious, but if we think back to the early days of Who, when the confidential things were going on, and they followed David Tennant around, and he did that video diary as well for a whole series, I think it was, and it showed him and his flat in Cardiff and the different things he was up to. And I think David Tennant at that point in his life, I don't think he quite minded it really. I think he was obviously knackered, but I don't think he minded it. Whereas someone like Capaldi, who's a lot older, and you have to remember as well that they really did put that on. Like, they flew him and Jenna Coleman around the world on a grand tour, didn't they, as well?
Yeah,
in between filming. So they really laid it on for
I can remember seeing him in Sydney or somewhere with the Sydney Bridge. But they really,
yeah, that was it. I think they went to
place, didn't they?
Yeah, Japan.
Oh, Australia, do you remember when they gave him that crazy? Somebody had done him a painting of the turban. It was really like abstract, and they handed it to him, and their reaction of, "Oh, that's lovely." Wonder what happened to that, to the skip just outside the conference centre. But that's right. Yeah, they went all over the place. But I was thinking also Tennant would have been he was a young single man back when he made Doctor Who, and he dated Madame de Pompadour for a bit, and now he's married to Georgia Moffat, now Tennant, and he's got about 4 or 5 kids as well, hasn't he? So his life's completely changed. So I guess if he was doing Doctor Who now, he'd probably find it more difficult, I suppose, because he is a family man now, isn't he? Whereas before he was all young, free and single and enjoying and having a very good time, but I should imagine.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Down. Yeah, I think Capaldi was... I don't know if Capaldi has any children or not, but I know he's certainly been married for a long time, and so probably was okay. I imagine it's one of those things where, in the first instance, you're like, "Oh, great, this is going to be awesome. I'm playing the Doctor.
Yeah,
this is going to be great." And then 10 months later, you're like, "Yeah, I'm playing the Doctor. I haven't slept in a week because we've been doing night shoots, and I can't sleep during the day, and I'm absolutely knackered, but I'm good."
There was. Yeah, I remember, what did we see him on where he looked exhausted, poor guy, didn't he? He just looked, I think he actually said, didn't he, how he was finding the schedule really hard. And we said he looked absolutely shattered.
Oh, I can't remember. Yeah, it was some interview, wasn't it? And
he just said,
the way he
I need a
spoke
break.
as well. Yeah, the way he spoke. And he looked like he'd aged about 10 years and about 6 months. And he just sounded dreadful as well. I can't remember. Yeah, so... but yeah, I mean, I wonder how that's changed in terms of as the show has moved on throughout since 2005, because I'm not sure about television standards and filming regulations and all that stuff. I'm not sure if being the Doctor is a bit like being a lorry driver. Like with a lorry driver, you can only drive a set amount of hours per day, and you have to stop, don't you, and take a break, and you can't go any further. I wonder if it's like that as an actor. Even though the schedule is full on and it's really busy, you can only do a certain amount of hours, and then you have to stop. I'm not sure, but
I would imagine it must be very restricted at the minute with COVID. They probably have to stop and have a test every couple of hours. I don't know. It must be very. I would assume some sort of regulations in place.
Yeah,
at the minute.
Yeah, but we haven't heard anything about Jodie or anything. Like, she hasn't said anything. Obviously, her agent. Nothing from the Beeb or Chibbers, so it's all very hush hush, as we knew it would be. We know the Beeb by now. We know that they'll announce it with big fanfare at some point, and it will be like this great surprise that's come out of nowhere, and we'll all be just saying, yeah, we know. Thanks for letting us know, but we knew.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, so nothing on that front, and that's the show in a nutshell this week. We haven't got any news to talk about. I've had a good old look through and research to see if there's anything worthwhile, but alas, oh God, I hate saying that. I slapped myself the other day for saying that.
What, alas?
Bloody Boris Johnson, you know.
What, alas?
It's his favourite word, like, because
I've never noticed you say it before then, and now you've pointed it out, I'm going to notice it all the time.
Yeah, I know, mate. Yeah. He just seems to be, we rolled out the vaccines and everything's great, but we'd like to get everybody done, but alas, we can't get everybody done. I'm like, every time he says it, I laugh. And my wife's like, you're laughing at us.
That now.
But now it's become habit. You know, when you say something or you notice something that someone else is saying, then you pick that up as a habit, and then so it's driving me mad. So
I do know what you mean. It is easy to do.
Yes.
To pick these things up and not even realise. Sometimes as well, when I'm filming a video, I'll say the same word over and over again without realising until I watch it back. So I'll say, I'm trying to think of an example, but like, oh, that is so beautiful, that is. And the TARDIS lamp, oh, that's absolutely beautiful, that lamp. And the way this door opens, it's beautiful the way, and you think, oh God, I didn't know I was doing that, until you watch the video back, and you're like, and you know that someone's going to pick up on it and be like, stop saying beautiful, dude, use another word. You're like, I didn't know I was doing it. It's very easy to do. Very easy to do. Yeah. Talking of old Jodie, the only Doctor Who related thing I've done this week. So, remember this VR game, Doctor Who Edge of Time?
Oh, yeah.
That's just come out. As you know, I'm not a gamer. I'm useless at games. Hopeless. I've got no patience. As soon as I die, that's it. I know. The amount of Doctor Who games I've bought over the years, and I've played them once, died, and then it's just sat in a drawer rotting, is unbelievable. I just got no time for them. But Edge of Time was on sale, and my other half was saying, oh, we bought that VR set, and we never use it, and it was like $9.99.
Oh, cool.
And we watched the trailer, and, you step into the TARDIS and stuff, and I said, it does look pretty good, actually. I mean, it's got to be worth $9.99, isn't it? So we downloaded it, and what I've played of it is very good. But I don't know, have you got a VR set?
I haven't, mate. No.
No. The thing is, I was enjoying it, but I had to stop playing, and I literally only played it for 10, well, maybe 15, 20 minutes max, and I felt really sick because of the motion, like the motion thing. And so I stopped playing. I said, I think I could sort of feel myself feeling ill in the headset. So I said, I'm going to have to stop for a minute because I feel really weird. So I took it off. I thought I'd give myself 5 minutes. So I was really enjoying it. It's like a sort of clue. You have to sort of find some clues. And Jodie was waffling on in the background like she does and stuff. And there was these creatures in some washing machines. It was all quite good. But I felt ill for about nearly an hour afterwards. Which I don't know if that's meant to. I was like, am I meant to still be feeling sick? So I'm frightened to play it again. But I mean, this is probably because I'm not really a gamer. I don't really get involved in these things. It's the first time I've really sort of used the VR set that we've got. But yeah, is that normal? I mean, because you're sort of moving around in the game. I think I just felt like a bit like when you step off a roundabout or you've been out to sea. Or I felt really like queasy and sick and. Such a shame because I was really enjoying the game, but I'm just scared to play it again because I really did feel weird after playing it. And I literally only played it for like 10 minutes. But have you ever done any of the VR stuff? I know you haven't got it, but have you ever done any? Is it like, is this normal?
Yeah, I've played it, a friend of mine, very briefly.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, but it's more common than you think, mate. It's
Is it?
Yeah, it's people have got different tolerances to these things, and my brother-in-law actually suffers from that, not from VR but just even normal video games. Not every game, but just a few games. For some reason they just make him feel, he gets motion sickness a little bit, and it makes him feel,
that's it. Yeah,
it makes him feel a bit queasy and he has to stop. But I've heard of that quite a few times. It's pretty common. But but the game itself though, it was pretty good though. You started off
the little I played of it, I was really enjoying it, and it was quite cool to feel like you were immersed in the world sort of thing. The only thing is though, so you've got like a hand in front of you, which you obviously use to open drawers and things, and it was really hard to control, and I was getting really frustrated with that. I was trying to open this drawer, and it would sort of grip it and open it a little bit, and then it wasn't, I don't know, I felt like it was glitching a bit,
right?
And that was really annoying me because it was right at the start of the game as well. So it's like, well, I need to open this drawer, But apart from that, but no, it seemed pretty good. What I played of it, I probably will give it another go. Maybe I just need to get used to it. I don't know. But I didn't last long, unfortunately. But I haven't really done much else. It was Tom Baker's birthday yesterday. That was pretty cool.
Of course.
Obviously, yesterday we're recording this on a Thursday, but Wednesday. So many pictures of Tom doing the rounds on Twitter and Facebook. That was lovely to see. 87 years old.
Crikey. I was going to say, he must be nearly 90. Yeah, he's 87, isn't he? Yeah.
87, so that was good.
And still going, which is amazing. I mean, in terms of work, not like being alive, but, just in terms of still recording at Big Finish and playing the Doctor, it's amazing.
Yeah, I was just going to say, he's well into his Big Finish stuff now. They've recorded, they've got so much in the can. They're just recording with Tom, aren't they? So they've got so much still to release, which is cool. But apart from that, that's been me. But I haven't really done much else this week, Doctor Who related. Yourself?
It's been fairly quiet for me. The only thing I've done is I've watched after I watched Terror of the Zygons, which was on Tuesday. I watched the Planet of Evil after that. On BritBox, what happens is when you get to the end of an episode, it queues up the next one and you can choose just to let it sort of also play.
Yeah.
Unless you turn it off. So, the first episode of Planet of Evil, I was like, I'll give that a go.
Is that a Leela? No.
No, Sarah Jane. Still Sarah. It's the one straight after Terror of the Zygons. It's it's they're off to what's it called, Zeta Minor, and it's the distress call, isn't it, from Zeta Minor. It's about the geological dudes. So I watched the first 2 episodes of that, and then that's all I've done, really. It's
it's funny. I should have known that. That is a video that I took out to watch last week, DVD even video, and I never got round to it. And I picked it because I can't remember it. I picked it out thinking, that's a Fourth Doctor story I've not watched very often, and I was going to give it a whirl, but I never actually got around to watching it.
It's not too bad. We'll have to. It's on our plan to review,
right,
at some point. I did a review of it very early on in the show, so back in 2014, episode 10.
Oh wow!
I did a solo review of it, but you and I need to review it together, really. But it's got a fairly decent sort of small supporting cast. Yes.
I think I get it mixed up with a Leela one. I don't know why. Is there a Leela one with Planet and so I don't know. I always get it confused with something else because I remember the forest bit at the start. It's all studio, but it looks like a sort of alien forest. I remember that. Or is that the Leela one? Oh, I'm getting confused.
No. It is forest.
That one.
It is. Yeah. It's the it's the Morstron base, and it's in that forest sort of area. But a couple of interesting characters. Sorensen's pretty good, and Salamar, the ship's control, he's an interesting character and stuff. So it's got a cool little supporting cast. But I'll watch the other 2 eps today or tomorrow. But that's the only thing I've done, dude, is watch a bit more of Tom, which I thought was appropriate, seeing as it's the birthday boy's birthday week and all that.
Yeah, I'm glad we're doing the Tom story this week on the podcast. I don't think that was planned, was it? I think it's just coincidence that it's his birthday week and we're doing the Fourth Doctor. But that's that's quite nice. I'm glad we're doing that. Yeah,
a happy accident.
That's the word. Yeah.
Yes. Oakley dokley. So we haven't got any more. We haven't got any news. Sorry, as we mentioned, it's fairly light. So we're going to crack on with our review. But before we get to that, I would like to wave hello and welcome to any new listeners that have jumped on board the TARDIS. If this is your first time listening to the show, it's good to have you here. And long-time listeners, it's good to have you back also, hearing us waffle on for another week. Remember to subscribe to our show, whatever podcast app you use, just do a search for us, the Big Blue Box Podcast. You'll find us on there. We'd love to have you as a subscriber, so it lands in your podcast inbox, I suppose you would call it, every Friday. And if you've got a minute to leave us a review and a rating, if you can do that, things like Apple Podcasts or iTunes, whatever, you can do that. That would be awesome, because that helps us out loads and loads. We're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. There are links to those things on the website, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. Come and interact and follow over on the socials. And then on the website, you can listen to all the shows there. Plus, you can check out all of the cool reviews and articles from our awesome writing team. And lastly, we have a free Discord server, and there's a link to that on the website. So come and join that and hang out with other Doctor Who fans. Yes. Right, dude, review time. What we got this week?
Yeah, so this week it is. This week I can't do the voice. It's not the Ice Warriors. It's the Zygons in Terror of the Zygons.
Why have you called me back? I hope you've got a very good reason.
Take my word for it, my dear. There are ancient mysteries here. Evil spirits haunt Talahur.
Exactly what could have caused injuries like that, Doctor?
Something very big, very heavy,
and very savage.
We have reason to believe there's something rather unusual in the Loch.
Loch Ness?
Yes, sir.
Don't tell me you found the monster.
As it happens, Your Grace, that's just what we do need.
Ah.
I am Proton, warlord of the Zygons. We should change the destiny of us.
This thing, whatever it is on its way?
Yes.
Nothing could stand against us. Nothing.
Machine guns may not be enough, Brigadier.
Then what do you suggest?
You are too clever, Doctor. Clever and dangerous. Die, Doctor.
Die, Doctor.
Oh, the voices are great, aren't they?
Doctor. Terror of the Zygons. Not Terror of the Autons, which I kept typing in when I was researching this morning. Terror of the Zygons was first broadcast back on the 30th of August 1975.
Oh.
It's a 4-parter and it wrapped up on the 20th of September 1975. It was written by Robert Stewart and directed by Douglas Camfield. Stars obviously Tom Baker as the Doctor, with Liz Sladen as Sarah Jane, Nia Marta as Harry. And then we have the unit guys back. So we've got Nick Courtney, John Levine, those guys, and then a fairly small cast of the locals around the loch. And then the synopsis for this one is: having received an urgent request for assistance from the brig, they arrive in Scotland, where they discover a mysterious force has destroyed 3 of the oil rigs in the local sea. The mystery deepens when a piece of wreckage is found with giant teeth marks on it, and the trail leads to the shores of Loch Ness, where they find that the legendary monster really does exist, and is the murderous tool of the Zygons, who are intent on overpowering the planet. So the Doctor, his companions and units must find a way to defeat the deadly monster and its controllers, but the Zygons have the terrifying power to change shape. The Doctor's life has never been in more danger, as the line between allies and enemies is tested to the very limit. Right, dude. Terror of the Zygons. Hit me. What you got?
Yeah. Well, I was worried this wasn't going to be as good as I remembered, but it is. I loved it. I thought it was a really, really good story. I have watched it a few times over the years. It is a bit of a go-to Fourth Doctor story for me. But obviously, when we're reviewing stuff, you sort of watch it through a critical eye. So things you forgive, when you're watching it just for pleasure, you sort of you're making notes about when we're reviewing things. So obviously, I picked out a few things that could have been better, obviously. But no, overall, I thought it was a really good, fun, quite adult at times story. Great cliffhanger. Well, a great cliffhanger to episode 1. One of the best. Such a scary, brilliant cliffhanger. Tom's superb. I like the fact that Unit are in it. I know this is probably the last big Unit story for a while. And I think Tom works really well with Unit in this story, even though I think Tom himself was quite keen to get rid of Unit and, be his own Doctor, which you can understand. But no, I think it's a good story. Very, very good. I think the music's beautiful in it. It's different composer in this one, which makes it stand out. So it's Jeffrey Burgon doing the music instead of Dudley Simpson. And it's a beautiful score. Like the scene at the end with the TARDIS, it's just, I just loved it. Harry decides he's not going to carry on traveling with the Doctor, and you've got a beautiful shot of the TARDIS in the forest in the background, and the music flowing over that. It's just such a beautiful ending. But it pretty much all works for me. The only negatives really, and I think this is obvious, is the Loch Ness Monster itself doesn't look very good. And it's a shame because I think normally it probably wouldn't stand out as much as it does, but because the rest of the production in this story is so high. I mean, the direction by Douglas Camfield is fantastic in this story. He's such a good director. The shots he gets, the way he films it, as I said about the cliffhangers and the scene in the barn with Harry, and the whole way it's shot, the production is brilliant. It's very, very classy production, but it is let down, unfortunately, by that monster. And I think it stands out more because the rest of it looks so good, unfortunately. But apart from that, I think it's a cracker. Really, really enjoyed it. From start to finish. I was going to watch it 2 episodes at a time. I thought I'd watch 2 and then 2 the next night, but I ended up watching all 4 in one go. I was just loving it. Cool. So yeah, it's a big thumbs up for me. It's probably one of my favourite Fourth Doctor stories. I really, really like this one.
Nice, dude.
What about yourself?
Yeah. Yes, it's a thumbs up from me, mate. Definitely. Yeah. This one's got some... I think the reason why this one is often viewed as a bit of a classic, and a lot of fans do like it, although Tom, this particular series of Doctor Who is very, very good in my opinion. It's one of Tom's best series for me, just because it's got some absolutely cracking stories, this series.
It does, yeah.
So, after this one, we go on to Pyramids of Mars, which is one of the best classic Who episodes ever, in my opinion. And then The Brain of Morbius is also absolutely brilliant.
A belter, yeah.
And then The Seeds of Doom, which was also directed by Camfield.
Brilliant, yeah.
We can't go into too much detail because we haven't done that yet as a review properly.
Spoiler. Okay.
But it's no secret that we both we both mentioned how good that is before. But so Series 13 is a really, really good classic series for me. It's one of Tom's best stuff. And I think the reason why Zygons stand out for me personally anyway is I like the fact that this is the only time we see them in the classic years. It's not one of those, because however cool the Cybermen might be and the Daleks and so on, there's something cool about only having the Zygons in this one story. So it makes them unique to this. They don't appear in any other classic Doctor stories. No, there's not this running kind of conflict and feud that the Doctor has with... Because that's one of the things that they tapped into, I guess, over the classic years, is this recurring feud with either the Master or certain aliens or monsters that the Doctor keeps running into. And so this kind of... because of that, there was a danger, I suppose, that the Zygons could have faded into nothingness, really, and like some other monsters that we've seen just the one time, they could have just faded away and not really been made much of an impact, I guess. But because the writing is so good in this and the story is so good, and it's very, very suspenseful, it doesn't go for all out action a lot of the time, and it doesn't go for all out horror. It's more of a sort of atmospheric, suspenseful story, which is really good. So for me, mate, it's really cool because the Zygons are so unique. And we don't suffer from, like we've spoken about over the last couple of months, we don't have Zygon fatigue like we've had with Dalek fatigue and Cybermen to an extent with that stuff. So, yeah, I love it for that. And like you said, the score is really good as well.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah. Sometimes when I've got the 50th anniversary soundtrack box set playing on shuffle, when this one comes on, it just brings a little smile to my face because it immediately transports you to those scenes.
It does,
in the stories, yeah. So the score is very cool.
It's interesting what you say about the Zygons, mate, because there is something about them, isn't there? They made such an impact, and yet they are only in this one story, which, I know it came out on VHS eventually, but you think all those years when it wasn't used before they started releasing things on video, there must be something about them that stuck in people's minds because they did make a big impact, and they weren't. It's surprising they weren't used again. You would think they'd be an obvious monster to bring back, and you'd think perhaps when Graham Williams took over. He's the new producer of Doctor Who, and he's thinking, right, I need to make my mark. Well, I know, why don't I bring the Zygons back? It is amazing that it took so many years for them to actually come back in the new series with Peter Capaldi, but yet people love them and remember them, and I think it's down to the design a lot. I think they look unusual and they look really good. I mean, 1975. You can perhaps see the mouth piece, if you look really carefully, but they actually work really, really well. A lot better than some of the monsters we've seen in Doctor Who. I mean, these guys, they look good. I mean, they do look a bit rubbery, I suppose you could say, but there's something about the design of them and the way the actors play them with that creepy, whispery voice that just, they really do stand out. And I just find it surprising they weren't brought back. But I agree with you. In a way, I like that. It makes it more special, doesn't it? Because it's that Zygon story. There's there's nothing else. You don't sort of think, oh, here they are again, they're back or whatever. And they could have done it. I think they say something at the end of the story about there's a load of Zygons out there or something, because they were planning to these Zygons were planning to bring all the others to Earth. So there's sort of a world built out there of Zygons. So they could have easily done it. But I used to wish that we got them back, but I think I agree with you now. It makes them more special just having this one really great story with them.
Yeah, I think that's what makes them, because you don't see them often. I think we did see them before, though, right? We saw one of them in The Day of the Doctor, didn't we? Before Capaldi.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, they escape.
I completely forgot that they were in that. Sorry. Yeah,
he escapes out of the painting.
That's right.
At the beginning, and then Tennant's Doctor gives one a big Frenchie.
Oh,
which is disgusting.
How could I forget that they were in Day of the Doctor? Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, that's what we're talking about, though, because we don't see them often. It's sometimes difficult to pin it down when we did see them. So I like the fact that they've just been sparingly used, just littered throughout the show's history. Because I'd hate to have a Zygon story where, because let's face it, all three of the stories, so this one, Day of the Doctor, and then the Capaldi two-parter, they might have popped up in very small little cameos or whatnot, I'm not sure, but in terms of them being the monster in a show, I'd hate for it to be another Zygon story and everyone's rolling their eyes like, here we go, here's another Zygon. So they're great monsters.
I seem to remember liking the Capaldi one. I haven't watched it for a long time. I might give that a rewatch, actually, because the thing I liked about that is they didn't change the design very much. I mean, I don't like the new series Cybermen design, for example. The Daleks, they did quite a good job upgrading them, but the Silurians, I think I don't like the new series design of those. With the Zygons, they pretty much kept it to this. They just tweaked it slightly, which I'm glad about. They didn't sort of try and modernize them too much. I think which was a good decision. But I haven't watched that Capaldi one for a long time. I'm definitely going to give that a rewatch, actually. Remember quite liking it.
Yeah, it's got the famous speech, hasn't it, towards the end when he's got them both in the,
Truth or Consequence.
That's the one. Yeah, that's a cracking story, actually. So far, Zygons are doing all right. They're doing all right. So I really like them. I think they're great. They're great monsters, and they've got this ruthlessness to them as well throughout this story. So throughout the story, when we go back and forth between they've got a secret layer, haven't they, inside the castle?
Yeah,
and
a bit Scooby-Doo, that, isn't it?
The bookcase.
Yeah.
They've got this this layer, and I like that we go back and forth where they've got the people they've captured who are being captive, and their bodies are being used for them to shapeshift, and they go off. So you see them. It's really clever, actually, back in the day to do that. So they've got this concept of, you see the character out in the interacting with the Doctor and the other cast members, and it's a Zygon, really, because the way that they're acting very cold and very non-human, I guess. And then it cuts back to those guys, and it was also cool how they did the ship as well, which I think was absolutely necessary, because going back to some of the ships that we see, like the Dalek fleet ships and the Cybermen stuff, it's all very futuristic sci-fi with lots of blinking lights and switches and levers and everything like that.
Yeah.
Whereas the Zygon ship is very organic. It's almost like it matches their composition, if you like. So when they're fiddling with all the controls on the dashboard, they just look like wobbly little mushrooms and stuff, and
almost looks like a pizza.
A pizza, yeah.
Yeah.
It does look like a pepperoni pizza, yeah. So that's very cool as well, because they could have gone down that road. Because they have done that a couple of times in Classic Who, where you've got these very non-technical looking aliens or monsters, but they seem to have very advanced technology, and it doesn't... Sometimes it's not too much of a problem, but if you delve into it too much, they don't seem to match
it's a bit
what's
jarring.
going on.
Yeah.
Whereas this, it was completely bang on with the design. That was all cool. And also the way that the guys who were playing the Zygons were very, very cool. So was it John Woodnut, and I think it was, who was the other guy? Keith Ashley and Ronald Guff, apparently, who were the other Zygons, but they played them really well. They had this very, I don't know, they just had this very, it's kind of obvious really, but this real alien way of playing those characters, where the voice obviously helps with that menacing kind of whispering voice, but even the way that they interacted with people, it was just really cool. The more I watch the Zygons, the more I like them. Which is really cool, because the more I watch the Dalek stuff, the more I'm like, oh god, how much more can we do of Dalek stories these days? Whereas the Zygons, I'm like, yeah, I'm up for it. If they want to do another one, I'm not necessarily saying they should do a Jodie Zygon story, but at some point in the future, I'd be up for another Zygon story for sure. They're really good monsters, man. Really good.
They are creepy, aren't they? I mean, if you think back to the cliffhanger episode 1, when Sarah's on the phone, and just that brilliant shot of her turning around and the Zygon lurching towards her. And maybe it's the big sort of sucker things on their hand. I don't know, but they are like quite cumbersome creatures, but they are scary. There's something quite Hammer horror about that particular shot. And I think it's the way it's the small mouth and the way it looks and the face and everything. It's proper creepy stuff. There's quite a few creepy bits in this, actually. I mean, the scene with Harry in the barn, I remember when I first watched this, I would have been quite young. The first time I saw this, I was on VHS. I bought the video cassette of it, and I don't know how old I would have been, but quite young, I suppose. And that scene in the barn really frightened me with Harry, because of the way it's shot and the fact that he's lurching at Sarah with the pitchfork. The way it's filmed, it's a bit like a horror film. A very tame one, but you know what I mean? For Doctor Who, it's quite near the knuckle. And the way that Ian Marter plays that as well, he looks really evil, which is such a contrast to the very gentle Harry Sullivan character that we used to see him play. The contrast that he managed to do in his performance is, I mean, that scene really sticks with me. When you say Terror of the Zygons, I think of Zygons, and I think of that scene in the barn where he's trying to kill Sarah. They're the sort of two bits that stick in my mind. Yeah. But yeah, it's quite adult in tone, certain bits. I mean, the bit with the nurse as well, she's really creepy. And there's a shot where she's got all this blood down her arm. And I remember, again, when I first watched this as a kid, like being like, oh, blood in Doctor Who, and not just a fleeting shot either. Oh, they're really showing that bloody arm, and there's lots of bits like that which are quite adult in tone. But again, I think this is the thing. I think Douglas Camfield is such a good director. He manages to just take, very near the knuckle, but without going too far. Like, I think it's never gratuitous. Like some of the violence in the Colin Baker era, for me, it's just gratuitous. The bit with the Cyberman crushing the hands, it's unnecessary. The bit with where there's a bit where a Cyberman gets shot in the head, and it's point blank range. The way it's shot is horrible. Dougie Camfield just manages to just get that line absolutely right with the scares and the violence and stuff. So it is close to knuckle, but it's shot in such a brilliant way that it's just got the line right, I think. Yeah. But there's a couple of bits in this. I remember as a kid being like the bit where Harry gets shot, for example. There's that bit. I thought Harry was shot dead.
Was a gunner.
Yeah. When he just gets a sort of mark on his head. But there's a couple of bits like that which really stay with you.
Yeah.
As a kid, but in a good way.
Yeah.
You know, it's thrilling rather than disturbing.
No, I read you. It's we've said it a few times around this particular era of Doctor Who, where Robert Holmes and Philip Hinchcliffe are sort of steering the ship, and they do take there's quite a few stories that take their cues from the old Hammer horror days. They have got that old school kind of horror feel, especially a bit later on, like we mentioned with Brain of Morbius and some of those other stories. It does have that horror-esque-ish. It does have that horror-esque feel to it. But Douglas Campbell, man, he works really well with those guys as well, because I know we didn't do all of Inferno, but the first couple of episodes that he did for Inferno were brilliantly directed, those ones. And The Web of Fear, he directed that, was really good. And then moving forward a little bit, which we'll come on to at some point, which is The Seeds of Doom, which is another one of his. He just has this really good eye for knowing when to keep things static, which we complain about sometimes, and also knowing when to just move the camera around a little bit and create a bit of momentum and motion, you know, moving from scene to scene. So he's got that wonderful, and I think with these type of stories, those kind of static camera feels and pacing and stuff actually work quite well. We normally have it when the Doctor's talking to the Brigadier, or the Zygons are talking to the Doctor in their lair, or there's a particularly important conversation that's happening, when we normally have that. And then the rest of the time it's the Doctor legging away from the Loch Ness Monster, and it looks quite good. Or there's the shootout when the brig shoots one of the Zygons, and there's all that sort of chaos kicking off around London and all that. It just seems to fit the pace of the story. Douglas's Dougie's direction, because there were some stories where, like, come on, it just feels so static, you know, just move the camera, just do something. Whereas whereas Dougie does do that, but it's done in the way that complements the script and the story, I feel.
He's a brilliant director. He really, whenever you watch a story and you see it's directed by him, you can tell he almost goes at it as if he's doing a mini film. He really goes for it. Apparently he was very, what's the word? He used to plan things very to precision, basically. So he was a very sort of technical director, and he got on well with the cast, but he was quite, you know, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. But there is something about his style which is quite, it seems to go that extra mile. So like you said, there's a scene where the Doctor's running away from Loch Ness, and it's just him running for a couple of shots. But most directors would just set up the camera, right, Tom, run across this field, and then we'll shoot it from this angle. Dougie gets the camera low, and you get the Doctor jumping over it and the scarf going across the lens, and he manages to make a really quite mundane chase sequence quite exciting, just from the angles he uses of the Doctor running across, you know, the field. But I just always think he seems to really put his heart and soul into filming it. It's not, to me, I don't think it was just to him, it doesn't seem just a job. It doesn't seem like, right, let's see, what have we got on the page? You know, he's not a flat director. He really goes for it and tries to inject some energy into scenes. I can't praise Dougie enough. It's a shame. I think he died fairly young, I think. But he did a few Doctor Who's over the years, and they always stand out to me as being so beautifully shot. Well, actually, he was 52 when he died. Yeah. But he did a lot. Yeah, he did Planet of Giants, Crusade, Time Meddler, Web of Fear. You said Invasion, Inferno, Seeds of Doom was the last one I think he directed. Mm-hmm. But a brilliant director. I've always wondered. We talked a little bit about the music. So as much as I love Douglas Camfield, I also love Dudley Simpson, but the two didn't love each other. I don't know what happened, but Douglas would never use Dudley, I don't think. And I don't know if it was something personal between the two of them, or if he just didn't like Douglas's style, or if he thought he was used too much and he wanted to use a different composer. I don't know the reasons for it, but I don't think he would ever use Dudley. I think all the stories he uses a different composer. For me, in this one, it definitely works. I think it's lovely to have somebody different, as much as I love Dudley's music. But I always wonder what the beef was there, or what the reason was that Douglas refused to use Dudley. Because I think there is a story there, but I don't know what it is. Maybe one of our listeners knows, so I'll have to search it up. But yeah, he never uses Dougie in any story he does.
Yeah, there was
Dudley. I mean,
Dudley Simpson. Yeah, when you mentioned it before we started recording, I remember thinking, yeah, you're right. There is. I remember reading about it. I think in relation to a different story.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, ago. I don't think they got on, but I can't remember why.
Yeah,
but yeah, Jeffrey Burton. Yeah, Jeffrey Burton does a lovely score. I don't know if he's done any other Doctor Who, so it's not a name I particularly recognise. If you know what I mean, like when you say Dudley Simpson, it's like, oh yes, he does loads, doesn't he? But yeah, Jeffrey Burgon. I don't know if he did lots of Doctor Who, or I don't know what he did.
Well, he did. He did tons of stuff.
Did he? Oh yeah, he did. Yeah. I'm looking now. Gosh, he did loads, didn't he?
Yeah.
But no, I don't know if he did that many Doctor Who's.
Seeds of Doom. And,
again, which is a Dougie one. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was it for Who. He only did those 2 stories, but he did go on to do quite a few other things. He did the Chronicles of Narnia TV movie things. I think that's pretty much it. Well, he did loads, but in terms of things that I can pick out that I recognise, that was it.
But yeah, it's interesting. Those are the 2 stories directed by Douglas Camfield in this, and he's used him for both rather than Dudley Simpson.
Yes, yeah. He did Monty Python's Life of Brian.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, and some other bits.
It's just not a name. It's just not a name I'm that familiar with. That's all. Okay, but it works very well. It really suits the story. Really, really heightens the scenes. I think really nicely. His score. Apart from the bagpipes, which I don't think are down to him, but there's that scene at the beginning where the bagpipes are blaring out until they finally stop. I was like, oh, thank God they've stopped. Such a horrible sound.
Yeah, no, I remember the first time I watched this, I thought that was an audio glitch or a problem. I thought they'd got the levels incorrect.
Yeah, it's quite loud.
But then I realised that it's intentional. It's the cast members are also peeved at this blaring bagpipes that are coming out. In a way, it's kind of funny because especially the brig, he's got that face where he's putting up with it. But you could see that if it was going on for a bit longer, he'd probably lose his mind. Because I think he tells one of the other, might have been Benton or someone, tells him to go and shut him up or something. But
well, talking of the brig, did you find him a little subdued in this story? Because I love the brig.
Yes,
and he is good in it.
Yeah.
What's the reason?
There's a reason for that. So Nick Courtney has said in a couple of interviews that he just wasn't happy filming this one.
Oh.
Was not happy chappy for a couple of reasons. First, because he was just upset and unhappy that this was likely to be the last time he would play the brig, because he knew that with the show's new kind of format after the Third Doctor era that it probably wasn't going to work for much longer. So he was a bit unhappy and down in the dumps about that. But also he was kind of at odds with... it was either Robert Holmes or Douglas Camfield, I can't remember, but I think he was at odds with those guys. He wanted the Brigadier... I think when he resolved himself to the fact that this was going to be one of the last stories for the brig, he wanted him to be killed off. That was his thing. He's like, you should kill my character off. If this is going to be the last time, then let's make it a belter. And kill him off. Let's do a bit of an emotional thing. And they were like, no, we can't kill off the brig. We just can't do that. So unfortunately, and I do agree with Nick Courtney on this one, what ended up happening was the Brigadier just doesn't really do anything. It's just he has his last sort of final smile with the Duke as the TARDIS is dematerialising at the end, and they walk off. You see them start to walk off, and that's it. That's the last scene. It's just very uneventful, I guess. I think Nick Courtney was looking for a bit of a bigger send-off, a bigger goodbye. So because of those 2 things, I think he was just not really feeling it and wasn't really on form. It's certainly not his best performance as the brig.
No, I mean, he's still good in it, but you're right. He's just a little bit subdued compared to... I think maybe he worked better with Pertwee probably as well. They nearly killed him off in Battlefield, didn't they? I think in Battlefield, the original plan was to kill off the brig, and then they changed their mind at the last second or whatever. So they did nearly kill off the brig again. But we don't see him now, I think, until Mordred Undead, possibly. I can't remember, which is Fifth Doctor, so quite far in the future. But I'll tell you who else wasn't happy. John Levine.
Johnny. What was up with Johnny?
Well, same thing. He felt like Unit were being... He knew that it was the end of Unit, basically, that Unit's time had come. And he didn't particularly enjoy working with Tom Baker, I think, because there's a really nice little making of on the DVD, actually, where they talk about all this stuff. And John Levine says they were such a close-knit family, John Pertwee, Katie Manning, Roger Delgado, and John Levine, that obviously it was so different now. You'd got Tom Baker, who sort of didn't sort of really that close-knit family had gone. So it's a totally different setup. And John Levine said, he started to feel like Tom was just a totally different personality. Just clearly they didn't really click. And the irony is, I actually think Benton's really good in this one. I actually think John Levine gives a really good performance in this. Because he's normally just gets one or two lines or one or two scenes, but he gets a bit of action, to do in this one. And I felt like he was giving quite a good performance. But yeah, so looking at him in the interview, he kind of saw the writing was on the wall, and he didn't really feel any warmth from Tom or the production team. So he was a bit subdued. But it doesn't show on screen. I think to me, he's actually still seems like he's really giving it. And maybe that's because Douglas Camfield was directing it, because he got on ever so well with Douglas Camfield. They were like really good friends. I think Douglas helped John Levine quite a lot with his career, from what I remember. So that's probably why. But I really thought John Levine was quite good in this, in terms of his performance, considering how unhappy he was behind the scenes. I thought he was giving quite a good performance. Yeah,
I think that's expected, though. I mean, I don't know if I'd be the same or not, but I think just from a non-actor point of view, just as a job, I suppose, having a job, it must have been a really awesome job during the Pertwee era, being, part of the Unit team, either as the Brig or Benton. It would have been a really cool thing, because we know it's been well documented that John Levine really looked up to Pertwee.
Yeah.
And Pertwee helped him a lot with his acting and all that stuff. And like you said, it was a close-knit family, all that stuff. And, it was all good. So when you fast forward in time a little bit, and you're with a doctor who, I'm not saying that they didn't get on, but maybe it didn't feel quite as close-knit as when it was with Pertwee. And then that Unit's on its way out and you're not going to be in the show anymore. You would naturally feel that way. Whereas I feel like John Levine put that to one side a bit more with his performance. Like you said, he doesn't seem to be letting it drag him down as much, and he's still being Sergeant Benton. Whereas I think Nick Courtney was a bit more, you could just tell that he just wasn't quite 100%. It was affecting him clearly. So
the irony is that, weirdly, the irony is that John Levine didn't particularly click with Tom Baker, but Nicholas Courtney and Tom actually got on quite well. I think they used to like going down the pub together. Yeah. So there was that, because I don't think John Levine drinks, or at least he doesn't now, I don't think. But I can see it from both sides. I'm sure you can too, that, you've got a new Doctor, you've got things have changed. It's like Doctor Who is always evolving, isn't it? It's always changing, trying new things. And to be fair, Unit had a good run. I mean, and they totally suited the Pertwee era. They worked brilliantly in that era. But, I think I can see why they'd want to move on now and try other things. And the Doctor's going to be going to more planets. And so I think it was right to perhaps step away from Unit. And I'm glad that they still bring them back, and they have their moments, like they're in Android Invasion, and obviously in the new series, up until the Jodie era, they were still involved, and there's still a thing, but I think it was right with Tom's Doctor to move away and leave Unit behind a bit. And I think Tom was keen to do it. And I think, the production team at the time were keen to move away from Unit and try new things. But you can see it from Unit's side. They've been such a big part of Doctor Who to feel like they're being, pushed to one side now. You can see it from both sides, definitely. But it's the right choice, And I think Tom, although he works well with Unit in this story, I think it's he's a totally different Doctor to John Pertwee. He would not have suited having unit round his ankles every story, would he? He's the kind of Doctor that just needs to be out there doing his own thing. You couldn't have him saddled with unit like John Pertwee, because it just wouldn't work anywhere near as well.
I don't think it would, no. I mean, it also suited the Pertwee era for the most part because he was grounded anyway. So
yeah, exactly.
He had no choice, did he, but to get involved in what was happening on Earth, which ultimately involved unit anyway. So the two of them combining forces was a natural thing because he couldn't leave. Whereas Tom, who has got free reign to go anywhere, there's no reason for him to keep coming or staying on Earth and doing unit stories. So, yeah, from a show perspective, you can absolutely see why. But unfortunately, old Nick, he just wasn't. To be fair, I don't think he wanted to overtake anything or be or overshadow the Doctor. I think he was just looking more for a better send off. Whereas I think they just wanted to keep the character in their back pocket for later on if they needed to bring him back, which is why they didn't kill him off. But he was just like, no, he was like Harrison Ford with Han Solo. He wanted that character to be killed off numerous times. And they were like, no, we're going to bring him back. So I think he was, a little bit bummed out about that. But
talking of subdued send-offs, it's just occurred to me actually that Ian Marters is a very understated leaving scene. Harry Sullivan, a great character. But yeah, his leaving scene, it never really occurred to me before. He just sort of says, "No, I think I'll stay behind." I just decides a bit like Ryan, isn't it? I think I'll stay with unit, mate. I think I'll stay with my mates. But yeah, it's a very sort of out of nowhere leaving scene for Harry. But I don't know how Ian Martin felt about that. I don't know anything about the sort of decision for him not to carry on. Again, I think it's nice because you then get the Doctor and Sarah who work brilliantly together. But I really like the character of Harry. I think he's a really good character. And this story was going to be, although this kicked off season 13, originally it was going to end season 12, wasn't it? It was sort of carried over for a few reasons. They decided to actually use it to kick off season 13, which I think is a good thing because although we haven't reviewed Planet of Evil, I don't remember it being anywhere near as strong as this. I think this is a cracking series to kick off a new season .2, but you do feel it could have been at the end of season 12 because Harry leaves, unit are leaving. It does feel like it's wrapping up. You know, it's sort of got a few things carrying over from the previous season. So it's really from Planet of Evil that we kick off with Tom and Sarah. Or the Doctor and Sarah, I should say. But
No, Rija, I think we were critical of Ryan and Graham's exit for the special. It was like, what? That is very anticlimactic and nowhere near the big emotional send off that the Chibbers had hyped it up to be, because they literally just said that we're good, thanks. We'll see you later. I think, and now you've got Harry doing pretty much the same thing. So
that's true.
So we can't be critical of them and not of this. So in terms of a companion leaving, it's very unfortunate that that's just how he leaves, because as you said, he's a very good companion. Ian Marter's a great actor, and that scene you mentioned earlier on in the barn where Sarah's trying to find him, for me, it wasn't the bit where he's about to stab her with the pitchfork or anything like that. It was that camera angle where it's looking down on him and he's got this really evil, it's kind of half of him's in shadow.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And all you can see is he's got this really evil look on his face. That creeps me out. So Ian Marter, he's a great actor. He can do that stuff, as well as the happy, very useful companion.
Hello, old girl. All that sort of stuff.
That stuff. But he can play evil really well.
Even though it's a bit of a subdued send-off for him, I think it's a good story for Harry, isn't it? You know, he gets to be shot and he gets to play this Zygon impersonator, and it's a good one for him to go out on. I think he gets some really good scenes in this, some really good stuff to work with, and he does it brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly. Actually, I think he's superb in it. But it never really occurred to me about the ending being so subdued before, but it kind of works. I think it's just because I love that end scene, the music, and for once the TARDIS prop looks pretty good. It's like, I don't know if that's down to Douglas Camfield. It looks like they've properly set it up and put the light on straight, and for once the TARDIS, because it's the Pertwee prop, which, let's face it, most of the time looks like you could push it over with a finger. It looks like it's about to collapse at any minute. It's still the old prop. You can tell by the door sign and the shape of it. but they've managed to make it look chunky and it looks really good in that one shot where Tom's walking towards it and about to leave. Oh, well, that does remind me. There's a really nice cut scene on the DVD. So there is a scene of the TARDIS landing, which was cut for timing reasons, I think. But on the DVD, you do get an option to watch the first episode with that scene reinstated. And it's a beautiful scene. It's a lovely scene. So the TARDIS lands. And again, it just looks so lovely. I don't know. They've managed to make the prop look so good for once. And there's a sort of bit of comedy banter between Sarah, Harry and the Doctor. And he's got his kilt on and the TARDIS is invisible and then they make it visible. It's a lovely little scene. And I'm so glad that they've still got it in the archives and that you can watch it on the DVD. So I'd probably always watch it with that scene included. I think it's great. They've had to recolor it, so it does slightly stand out compared to the rest of the episode because they've done a great job remastering this. The picture looks great, but I think this particular scene, it still looks good, but you can sort of tell there's a few picture flares on it and stuff. So they've done their best to recolor it or whatever they've done. But yeah, it's a lovely scene. It's a shame it got cut. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's for timing reasons. It was episode 1 was probably too long, so they just cut out the TARDIS landing. But yeah, it's well worth watching it with that included if you get a chance.
Yes, yeah, and it's only a minute and a bit. I think it's only.
It's really short. Yeah,
but it's worth it though. It is worth it.
Yeah, it's just the Doctor coming out in a kilt, not in a kilt, in his scarf and stuff, and they're making a joke about it because they're like, "Oh, I wonder where we've landed." And the Doctor's like, "Well, Scotland, obviously. That's why I'm wearing it." Just a fun little scene.
Yeah, and that also explains the Doctor's look at the beginning as well because he's got the tartan stuff and things like that. For some reason, I thought he was wearing that more throughout the story than what he was.
Me too, actually. Yeah,
and they kind of promote the story with any kind of like the original DVD releases and VHS and stuff and the Target book. No, not the Target book, but the DVDs and the VHS. They picture him in that Scottish outfit, and for some reason, I thought, he's rocking around in that for a bit longer, but he's not. He changes pretty quick, doesn't he?
Yeah, I must admit, I'm exactly the same. I always think he's in that like the whole story, but he's not at all, is he? But Harry's rocking the Fourth Doctor's scarf, isn't he? While he's wearing that, and they're walking towards the pub. Harry's got the multicoloured scarf on. It really suits him. He looks really cool in the Doctor's scarf because he's got his sort of smart suit underneath. It just is such a contrast. Yeah, I love Harry. I think he's a great character.
Yes. Let's talk about Liz Sladen quickly then, because she's fairly cool in this.
Yes, as always. Yeah, she's great in this.
Yes, and there was a couple of scenes that I thought she was very good in. The first one was when she's chasing after Harry. When she realises that, oh, Harry's here. Where did you go from? And he just turns up and swipes that thing and then does the.
Oh yeah.
And then she chases after him. She's pretty cool at that stuff, really, which sets her apart from some parts of other companions, where some female companions were very much, I'm just going to scream a lot and I'm just going to run around after the Doctor, which was, a bit unfortunate, but that was, very old days writing for that type of character, I suppose. But Sarah Jane, these are the things that separate her from that older typical type of female companion, where she's very take charge. She's like, Harry's turned up, now he's legged it, I'm not just going to let it go, I'm going to run after him. Then she goes off and she grabs Unit. She's like, right, follow me. And then she goes off and she's just fearless with that stuff. It's very cool.
She is. And also the scene when she goes to see the Duke or whatever, and she discovers the hidden doorway in the bookcase, and she's straight in there, right? What's going on here then? She doesn't sort of worry about. Yeah, I mean, she is such a strong character. There's a lovely scene, isn't there, when she, just after the Zygons locked her in that room, and the Doctor gets locked in with her, and he does that weird. He sort of hypnotizes her to stop breathing. That's a really odd scene, but a really good scene, isn't it? Where the Doctor does that weird, and he says something about, I don't know what it is. It's something about a Tibetan monk or something, isn't it?
He learned it from a Tibetan monk, yeah.
Yeah, but I like that. I really like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's the second scene that she was really good in, was when he's hypnotizing her and she has to really focus and concentrate. But you can see that she's. The thing that was cool for me was that she was genuinely scared, it looked like.
Yeah.
When they got locked in there.
What I liked as well, it says in the production notes that they the cast, the script was a little bit, it needed a bit of tweaking, the script apparently. So the cast were allowed, so Douglas Camfield said, look, I'm going to put you into groups. Just go down the pub and any bits of the script you think aren't working, I just want you to just put some ideas down and let's try and iron out a few kinks. And I love that. So there's quite a few bits where the cast have just put in their own input to tweak just a few bits. And that scene was one of them. So in the script, there was none of that. The Doctor hypnotising Sarah to hold her breath and all that. What actually happened in the script was the Doctor used his sonic to burn a hole in the window to let some air in. And they said, oh, that's a bit boring using the sonic. If only they did that now. But, you know, so they said, oh, let's why don't we have it that the Doctor's got this thing that he can use and he's not sure if it's going to work, but it does. And, you know, so it's so much more interesting.
It is.
What was the other scene they changed? There was another scene later on where they, again, just slightly tweaked it. It was quite bland on the page and they, you know, they thought up something between them that was more interesting. I thought I'd written it down, but I can't remember what it was. But I like that. I like the fact that the whole cast were involved to try and make this as good as it could possibly be.
Yes. No, I agree. That's
I
really
think
good
actually,
thing as well, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
No, that's just a really great way of getting input from your actors early on, rather than we've heard about stories where Tom's exploded on set because he feels like that this line just doesn't suit his Doctor. So if you can get their buy-in and involvement early, then it's just another cool thing that Dougie did, I suppose. Yeah,
no, I saw it. I just suddenly remembered what the scene was, and actually it does involve Tom. And it wasn't so much that he thought the scene didn't work. So there was, when he's being chased by the Zygon, I think originally he was supposed to be in a boat, and the way he got away from, so he was trying to row away from the Loch Ness Monster, and the way he escaped from it was to turn the boat over and submerge himself in the water. And Tom wasn't very keen to do that, so he suggested it was just a chase across the moors. Right. Maybe not doing it because it wasn't going to work so much, but the fact he didn't want to get dunked in a cold. So there were little bits like that got changed as they were doing it. But yeah, that's another thing I love. You know, just the more I find out about Douglas Camfield, the more I'm so intrigued by him as a person and a director. Just and I think there's a documentary on the DVD which I didn't get time to watch, but yeah, just I love the fact he did that he said to them that, you know, good script here, guys, but you know, it's been a bit rushed or whatever. Go away in your little groups. Let's make something of this. I just love the fact that they did that.
Yeah.
Just imagine Tom down the pub. I'm not going in the lakes in the moors. Sod that.
No, that's cool actually, and that's when you talk about the actual location of Loch Ness and Tom rowing in the river or the water, or whatever. That's kind of cool that the location stuff was very good because. You kind of get swept up in the concept of it being set in Loch Ness in Scotland because it was filmed down in West Sussex, all of it, wasn't it? Down
That's
at
right, yeah.
Amersham and South Downs and all that stuff. But you just don't even think of it. You just take it for granted. Oh, okay, there must be in Scotland doing location. I think the only thing that gives it away is the fact that there aren't any wide shots of Loch Ness or anything like that. So that's probably the only sort of telltale thing that would make you think, oh, they're not really up in Scotland. But other than that, it was all good. And before we get on to Tom...
I would never have known it wasn't Scotland, to be honest.
No, I thought it was. Yeah. Before we get on to Tom, actually, because he is very cool in it, the Loch Ness Monster itself and the thing. So normally... And I know it does get a lot of flack for obvious reasons when you think about the execution of this. It's essentially a hand puppet, right? With
pretty much, yeah.
You know, it's been superimposed into the shot and stuff like that. Now, in a way, it's very difficult to criticize that, you know, because the rest of the story is so strong and everything else is so good about it. It almost gives it a free pass, this one, because in my opinion, this was the right way to do it, because the Loch Ness Monster, although it was a key part of the story, because it's being controlled by the Zygons and they've made it tear down the oil rig and they've made it go after the Doctor and this little transmitter thing. They're the driving force behind it. So although it's a key part of it, I like the priorities of the film, of just television making in this priority order. It's like, let's get the core part of the story right. Let's get our main villain, our main aliens looking really good and the performance is really good. Let's get all of that stuff done really well. And let's just use whatever we've got left on the Loch Ness Monster. I think if they'd done it the other way round, spent tons of money trying to make the monster look good and all that stuff, I think other parts of the story would have suffered.
Maybe, yeah.
So I'm kind of glad that they just did it, because it's just a classic sci-fi show with no budget when you boil everything down, right? So I'm kind of glad they did everything else. All the location stuff is as it needed to be. The Zygon outfits and all that stuff was how it needed to be, and all that stuff. So yeah, I don't hate it, but I know that a lot of people do have a problem with it. In my opinion, I think it's better than the bloody Drashigs, if I'm being honest with you.
I was surprised I was going to say, I'm surprised you're giving this a free pass, because it reminds me of the Drashigs in a way. So I'm surprised to hear you say that. I think for me, it doesn't bother me too much. It's just that the last episode, the story has been so good up until the last episode, and the last episode is good. But in terms of production, it's more the fact that the last 10 minutes, it really feels like the money's run out. So it's not just the Loch Ness Monster, but the set that Tom goes out on this balcony, and it's really, really poor. It just feels like the other sets are so good. Like the interior of the pub set is great. The Zygon spaceship is like so strange and looks brilliant, and even the Duke's castle is a great set, and it's only on screen for a couple of minutes. And then you get to the end bit, sort of like the climax of the episode, and Tom comes out on this really brightly overlit balcony with the grey walls that look like they've been painted in I don't know. It just feels to me like what happened at the end of this episode. Like it's not just the monster looks bad. The set looks awful, and the lighting's really bad. And it is surprising. I don't know if I can blame Dougie, because he's so good and so meticulous. I don't know, but for me, it's the whole sort of last 10 minutes. The production just seems to lose it. So, and then it picks it straight back up with the the beautiful scene with the TARDIS leave at the end. But that's really the only sort of negative I have. Really, is the set and the Loch Ness Monster, which is a sort of stop animation. Well, it's a mix, isn't it? Stop animation and then a hand puppet. I think it's a mix of the two. But that's really my only sort of criticism up to that point, because the rest of the model work I think is really good for the time. Like the oil rig looks pretty good when it's all being crushed and whatever. The spaceship looks great when it blows up, and we get a nice shot of them jumping out of it, which is obviously, you can tell it's just been held close to the camera to make it look big, but it works, and the model itself looks good, and when it's flying off, it looks fairly decent, and when it blows up, it's a good model shot. So most of the model shots in this are really good, I think. So yeah, I can only really criticise the last sort of 5 minutes maybe, and it's more down to the set and the lighting. It just feels like maybe they were a bit pushed for time on that last bit. I don't know.
Well, that's probably it, mate.
It probably is.
You're probably right. It's a case of it's like the very last bit of that part, that fourth part. So time isn't a luxury, and money isn't a luxury anymore, because they've built all the sets by that point, and they've done all the makeup and all the effects and stuff like that. So yeah, that last bit is probably just, we've got to just work with what we've got.
I'm not even sure if Tom's looking in the right direction as well when he throws the thing. It just seems a little bit like they didn't quite get that sort of last production bit right. I don't know. It probably was time though. They probably just were a bit pushed for time, because Dougie is so good. I can't think any other reason for it. Yeah. So you were going to say about Tom, he is great in this, isn't he? He's as I said, kicking off his second season as the Doctor. He pretty much hit the ground running as the Doctor anyway, didn't he? He's was great from the get-go, but he's brilliant in this, isn't he?
He is, yeah. And his performance is slightly different to what we saw in Series 12, in that he seems to have a bit more of a balance between the serious stuff and the, when he's got that really big sort of cheeky grin and smile on his face that he does sometimes, and those funny little one-liners. It feels like the writing for him and just the way his performances from this series onwards, it feels a bit more balanced to me. Like there were some stories beforehand where there was a big portion of the story where he was very crotchety and very grumpy, like the Ark in Space. He was just very sort of not just quite grumpy in some of it.
Especially with Harry. Yeah, he was quite snappy. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in obviously Genesis of the Daleks, there was a couple of episodes where all the way through pretty much he's very snappy and quite dry. Whereas from this point on, I feel like most of the stories anyway seem to have a good mix of him being either angry or worried about something, mixed in with those funny little grins that he does, and
the wide eyes and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
So he's always been great. Don't get me wrong, but I think from this point onwards, he just seems to, and even Philip Hinchcliffe said that this point onwards was where he felt that Tom Baker finally starts to get his performance like bang on, like spot on. Yeah. But he is great though, no doubt about it. He is great in this.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. I've always thought that, and you don't really notice it until you go back and sort of watch early Tom. I mean, there is definitely, he does hit the ground running. He's great from the get-go, but his Doctor definitely changes and evolves over. I mean, he was the Doctor for quite a long time, wasn't he? Especially by the time you get to season 18, he's very subdued in that. A totally different Doctor from season 12. But I think season 13 probably is like peak Baker, who in terms of stories and his performance, and him and Sarah are so great together. And this is the series I really want to see released on Blu-ray. This is the season I really, really want. Even though I've got them all, but this is such a good season, like you said, and there is a nice couple of little extras on the DVD as well, which I'm sure they'll include. There's a great interview with Tom. He's quite honest in it. It's one of those when it's more serious Tom interview than you sometimes get. He seems quite fiery in certain parts. He's talking about there's a bit where he talks about having to talk to, people in the production would bring their kids in, and he'd have to, in between filming, and he'd have to sort of talk to them and then go back into filming. And he's quite honest in that interview and stuff. And there's also a nice interview with Liz Sladen on there as well. So there's some really good little extras on this DVD. Well worth watching. Yeah. So looking forward to them all coming together on one nice Blu-ray set. That'd be lovely.
Yes, indeedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Series 13's just got...
it's a belter,
It's a very, very good series, yeah. Anyway, back to Terror of the Zygons. Did you have anything else on your notes? Because
No, I don't think so.
No, other than a couple of the supporting characters I thought were quite cool. The guy that runs the pub.
The guy with the second sight.
Yeah, Angus. Is it Angus?
Angus, yeah.
Yeah, he was quite cool.
The son of a son of a son, or whatever he says.
Yeah, and John Woodnut, who played the Duke of Forgill, with a kind of Scottish accent, I suppose.
Well, yeah.
In some scenes, he wasn't too bad, but I appreciated his more sinister look rather than his accent. He's pretty good at that.
He's quite a scary looking guy. Yeah. I think do you remember that weird Boy from Space TV show? I think he was the scary alien dad in it. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, do you?
I know the show, but I can't picture him though. It might be him.
I'm sure it's because that scene stayed with me forever as a kid, of him coming over the hill as this creepy alien dad in a Mac, because he's just got a scary face, that guy. Sorry to the actor, but he just got one of those faces that he does look a bit alien. Yeah, he was all right. Accent a bit dodgy, but he was good. Yeah, good casting for an alien Zygon.
Yeah. It was in the boy. Yeah, it was him in The Boy from Space. Yeah.
Do you remember that thing or not? Because it's a bit. You'll have to be of a certain age to know what I'm talking about. Hopefully, a couple of listeners out there know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know of it. It was not. It was a few years before I was born, but I remember seeing it on TV. They still played it on TV though when I was young. So
I was going to say we were made to watch it at school. I don't know. It's not an educational program. I don't think.
No, it is. It's a proper.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he played the thin spaceman. Yeah.
He's very creepy in it. Probably nobody knows what I'm on about, but if anybody ever gets to see that, you'll see exactly what I mean. He's properly weird, creepy in it.
No, he is. No, I can't picture his face, but I remember the character.
Well, they don't talk. They make this weird noise, which makes them even more creepy. They've got weird. It was a weird program, but a good program. Yeah. So yeah, I can see why they chose him. Is what I'm trying to get to. I can see why they chose him as that for this part. He does suit it.
Yes. Yeah. Okie dokie. Then have you got anything on your notes, dude?
No, I'm all done.
You're done. Right. Scores time then. Time for scores. I think it's you to go first.
Yeah, I'll give it a very strong 8.5. I was close to a 9 because I do think it's a great story. Should I give it a 9? It is one of my favourite Toms, actually. I am going to give it a 9. I'm going to give it a 9. I think it was great. I'm only really knocking off points for the, as I said, the Scarrison looking a bit dodge, and the set, the end set being overlit and looking really shoddily cheap in such an otherwise brilliant production. So I'll give it a 9. I think it's a great story.
Oh, cool. Okay, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
An 8?
Yes, I've knocked, even though I said it gets a free pass, I've got to knock a point off for the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah.
Because however, whichever way you spin it, that is the weakest part of the story. Not the concept, but the way it was executed. And I'm also knocking a point off because I feel, especially as we get further through series 12 and 13 and so on, there are better stories than this that I would give a higher score. So although it is a very good story, I really like this one, and I haven't seen it in age. I don't know why, and I think that's a good thing because if I was to watch it more regularly, the Zygons would lose their appeal a little bit. So I'm glad that I don't reach for it often, but it is a very, very good story.
Actually, I'm going to stick to what I originally wrote and give it an 8.5. That is what I wrote on the pad, and also because I just remembered the subdued and exit for Harry has to,
and for Nick Courtney as well.
And for Nick Courtney, so it's an 8.5, but it is very good. It is good.
It is.
It's not quite a 9, I suppose. Yeah,
that's cool. Okie dokie. What did our listeners think? We had a few audio reviews in, as always. Thank you very much, guys. We're going to kick off with Mr. Simon Hodgson.
Hi guys, here is my thoughts on the Series 13 classic, The Terror of the Zygons. And what a classic it is. A great script and performances from all involved. The highlights for me are John Woodnut as the character of Broton in general, with the Doctor's classic line of, "You can't rule the world in hiding, you got to come out onto the balcony sometimes and wave a tentacle," which I think is just genius. Lowlights for me have to be the lack of a decent farewell or parting scene for Harry, and also the Scarrison, which wasn't really realised as well on screen. Although at the time it may have been sort of groundbreaking, I wonder if this had been made today, the effects would have been amazing, I feel. Perhaps this may be cleared up on a future Series 13 Blu-ray eventually as an optional extra. But anyways, it doesn't affect it so much as to ruin it for me overall. And as a result, I'd give this a solid 8 out of 10. Cheers.
Another 8.
An 8. That's a good shout, isn't it? That'd be brilliant if they enhanced it for the Blu-ray release. I think like they've done with Terror of the Autons on the forthcoming season 8, they've just tweaked the scary doll to make it look better. That'd be brilliant if they could do that with Scarrison.
That would be cool, yeah. So not to replace it and have it look out of place, but if they just tweaked it a little bit, that'd be cool. Yeah. Thank you very much, Simon. Hopefully we will get it as a Blu-ray release at some point. Well, I'm sure we will, but who knows when. But thank you very much for your review. Moving on, this is Mr. TARDISNet66.
Terror of the Zygons. It's a good and very strong story, although personally I don't think it's quite as good as it's given credit for. I think the Zygons are fantastic with their sinister voices, a brilliant design, and I like the idea of them hiding on Earth for centuries, and with Doctor Who doing its own science fiction twist on the Loch Ness Monster. And I think Broton's scenes with the Fourth Doctor are great. But I think what lets it down is the pacing. There's just not enough content and intrigue in the first 2 episodes. I think Harry is very underused in his last story as a companion. And although I was hardly expecting a big and epic goodbye, I wish Harry had some kind of an exit from the series, given other companion departures in Classic Who. I think it's a good story, I just don't think it's quite as good as other stories like Genesis of the Daleks or The Brain of Morbius.
Yeah, it's a good shout.
Yeah, no, makes some good points there. I do know what you're saying.
Yeah, I can't say 100% agree with the content. I thought the content was pretty much there throughout the story. But I do agree with you about Harry, though. I do feel that he, a bit like the Brig in certain respects, if those guys are going to be exiting the show, and they've been quite a big part of the show, then maybe they could have had a bit more of a fanfare or something. I'm not sure, but
does Harry pop up in Android Invasion or not?
He does, yes.
I thought he did, but it's brief, isn't it?
Very brief, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, agree with you for the most part. TARDISnet, thank you very much for your review as always. Moving on, this is Sammy from Down Under.
Hey, Gary and Adam, Sammy Satine here. So, Terror of the Zygons. I love this story. The Zygons are great. The fact this story made such an impact on David Tennant that Stephen Moffat brought them back is great. What a great idea. The Loch Ness Monster is actually an alien called the Garrison. It's always great to see the Brigadier, even better in a kilt. I'm disappointed Kate hasn't won one yet. Character, can we please have a figure of the Brigadier in a kilt? I would buy it. Nice to see Sergeant Benton. I met John Levine. Nice chap. Anyway, I give it 10 Scarrisons out of 10. See ya.
10
Scarrisons. Sammy's loving it.
Crikey. 10 out of 10. Sammy loving that one. And yeah, I forgot to mention the old Brig. Rocking a kilt. Yeah.
Lethbridge Stewarts, yeah.
It was really funny as well when the Doctor points at it. He's like, what's that? Bit of mockery.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, thank you very much, Sammy. A 10. Crikey. Next up is Mr. Martin Arnold.
There is a Zygon loose about the Seuss with a suspicious-looking moose. Lovely stuff. I love this episode. I think the Zygon costume is really, really good. I don't know why they were never brought back again. I think they must have spent a lot of money on that costume. You might as well get your money's worth. The guy who plays the Zygon leader is great. His line at the end is hilarious. Sad to see this as the last true appearance of the Brig and Sergeant Benton as the active sort of unit detail. Obviously, we won't see him again until Mordrin Undead, which makes me a little bit sad because his appearance in that is a little bit wistful. But this is a great episode, a great start to the best season of Doctor Who. I will cosmically duel anyone with a Brain of Morbius mind thing who disagrees with me. And I love the way it's set up, where they go off in the TARDIS and they're trying to get back to London, but inevitably the Doctor leads them all over the place and they have great adventures. Well, him and Sarah. Harry chooses to leave at this point, which is a little sad, but it's great when companions don't outstay their welcome. And as much as I enjoy Harry, Sarah and the Doctor go on to have a great series of adventures, and this is the start. So well done. Cheers. 9 out of 10. Take care. Stay safe.
It's hard to disagree with you there, buddy. Yep. This series and the start of this series is very, very good. Arguably Tom's best. So yeah, a 9 out of 10 for Martin. Thank you very much. Moving on. This is Neil Cam.
Hi guys, what's the crack? Terror of the Zygons. What can I say? I love this story. I loved it as a kid. I still love it now. And it's a story that, in my eyes, really does stand up to the test of time. It's a really good plot. It's haunting, terrifying, creepy, but fast-paced at the same time, and you're always left wanting more. I think the Zygons were an excellent monster, and it was great that they got brought back in 2013 for the Day of the Doctor, and obviously then the Zygon invasion and inversion a couple of years later. Tom Baker's really hitting a stride as the Doctor. I love the themes in the background, the Scottish themes. It really did make you feel like you're in Scotland, even though it wasn't actually recorded there. There's one in particular called I Landed in Scotland, which is on the Doctor Who 50th Anniversary soundtrack collection. It's really cool, and it makes me reminisce about the story quite a lot. But yeah, the cast in general and the sportcast as well was really, really good. And I'm going to give this a 9.5 out of 10. Outstanding. Thanks.
Another high score.
Another high score, yes. It does definitely convince us Scotland. Yeah.
That's all.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, it does. That's what we said earlier. It does a very, very good job of making you feel like you're up there around Loch Ness and Islands and all that stuff. So, yeah. But a 9.5. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much, Neil. And lastly, this is Mr. Joe Turner.
Overall, I found Terror of the Zygons very average.
I love the setting of Scotland, and it was beautiful, but that was soon contrasted by some very bleak scenes involving a sniper nearly killing Harry and a nurse clobbering a unit soldier with a stone. I love how they addressed the myth of the Loch Ness Monster, giving it a great Doctor Who spin, but the creature didn't look particularly great even for the time. The Zygons were actually quite weak throughout, although I love how they can shapeshift, but after a while it was so predictable who was and wasn't a Zygon. One way in which they were weak was them failing to realise the Doctor wasn't dead, resulting in UNIT being able to track the ship, and also falling for the Doctor's trap when he trapped 2 of the Zygons in the ship and pressed the self-destruct and the ship blew up. I wish we got more scenes of UNIT and Zygons in the forest, as even though the Zygon was on the run, I just felt something good about a Zygon in the forest. Harry was great in the episode and was given a chance to be separated from the Doctor and held his own well. The Brig was great, but being its typical self and resulting to conflict every time, with the Doctor even saying, "Was that a big enough bang, Brigadier?" And Harry's final scene in Who was a little anticlimactic and I wanted more. So overall, I give this episode a 6 out of 10.
Okay. A 6. Yeah. So I think, so Joe, fairly middle of the road. I think, there was, that's the thing though. There's always potential, isn't there, to want more scenes between the Doctor and monsters and whatever.
Mm.
But I get what you're saying now. Yeah, it's maybe it should have been a 6-parter, Joe. Probably not, but
probably not.
Yeah.
There is one thing that was strange is the fact that they've got the bug is the eyeball of the deer head in the pub. I was wondering why they were so worried about getting it back. Like, what does it matter if they find the bug? He's like, quick, go and get it. They found it. Go and get that bug. What are they worried about? Say what?
Well, they've been rumbled, haven't they?
Yeah, but
that's the only
even
way.
if they found the bug, they're just going to take it out and go, "Oh, here it is." Why do they need it back? Is it expensive? Like, we bought that from Argos. Go and get that bug.
We're outside of the 30-day money-back guarantee.
Yeah.
So we have to.
It's never occurred to me before. It's only when watching it yesterday I was thinking, why are they so worried about that bug?
Yeah, don't know, man.
Go and get it quick.
It was quite comical though. You didn't realise, because in the scenes before that, it was just obviously stationary, didn't move, and then that one scene where he's looking for the bug, you see it move around and follow it.
Imagine if the Zygon it wasn't worried about the bug itself. It was the expensive deer head that he was like, "See, comes back. I've got the bug. No, you fool! Not the eye. I want the whole thing. I paid a fortune for that deer head."
They missed a trick there.
Hanging in the Zygon bathroom.
Yeah, the bathroom. Yeah. Thank you very much, guys, for all of your audio reviews. It's really very cool to time out your day to do that. I think mostly decent scores there.
Yeah, mostly, yeah.
The average brought up by Sammy's 10 out of 10. Yes, and the 9.5. Over on Twitter, we had a few there. Rick Moran from the Dwas says, tremendous story which opens one of the best seasons of the show's history in superb style. It's a gorgeous looking episode. The Zygons and the sets look awesome. The story is exciting, thrilling, fun and humorous. The acting is wonderful with Tom, Liz, Nick, Ian Marta and John Levine, all terrific as usual. It is sad that UNIT would be phased out from this point. The guest performances from John Woodnut and Lilius Walker are especially good. A true classic in every sense. A 10 out of 10.
10, right.
One of our writers, Jordan Shortman, says, brilliant story. The acting from all involved is great, and as a last proper UNIT story for many years, it's a terrific send-off. There's some genuinely creepy bits here too, which help kick the series off, and the Zygons look great. Easily one of the best Baker stories.
Nice. Cheers, Jordan.
Lily May says, I've been watching this recently on episode 3 tomorrow. Really fab and so many good guest stars. I love Lilius Walker in particular, as she's just so unnerving and creepy. Zygon Harry trying to murder Sarah with a pitchfork is terrifying. Do you come here often? Chippy T says, I love stories which mix Who with earthly, historical and or legend ideas, such as the Romans, the Aztecs, etc., even Robin Hood. It's a belter, and at 4 episodes, it's just right. For me, only the Ice Warriors beat Zygons as the best creature. An 8.5.
Nice.
Cool. Lost on Gallifrey podcast. Those guys say, a story that is rightly acclaimed and always lives up to the hype. The Zygons are such beautiful looking monsters, so much so that Tennant will end up kissing one. And also so frightening here. Baker is so doctory, it's untrue. Sladen is fantastic, so is the kilted brig. A 9.5.
Nice. I just started listening to those guys, by the way. Great podcast.
It is good pop. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
Tom, Titan Sci-Fi says, great story with a brilliant monster. Sad to see Harry go, 7.5. Dan Pin says, great story. Definitely in my top 10 of Who stories. The Zygons are a great design and have a really well-rounded out backstory. Tom Baker is at top of his game. Love the TARDIS team. The score is creepy and adds fantastically to the tone of the story. It very much does, Dan. Yes, agree with you there.
Yes.
It goes on to say, does anyone else think it's a bit weird that Broton, warlord of the Zygons, stops to pick up 3 hitchhikers?
Oh, yeah.
At the beginning, I suppose.
Thought about it. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, yeah.
Trying to blend in, I suppose. Yeah.
That's right.
9.5 from Dan, though. Another high score, crikey. Hendrix Chaplin says, this wouldn't be in my top 10 Fourth Doctor stories, but it's still a great story. And what better way to start Tom's best season? The Zygons are fantastically good alien villains. The story is exciting, thrilling, fun, and humorous. I wanted Harry to stay longer.
Yeah.
Denise Warner says, love this story. One of my faves from Tom's era. Harry and Sarah Jane, Zygons, and the Loch Ness Monster. Classic. And can't forget the Brigadier and unit. A brilliant 10 out of 10.
10. Nice.
Sarah Louise, the running Whovian, says, an enjoyable story packed with adventure. Tom's Doctor was his usual standout self. Loved Sarah Jane's confidence, and the Brigadier wearing his clan colours was a nice touch. The Zygons look great, Nessy less so. The plot was predictable in parts, but still very exciting. 8 out of 10.
Nice. Cheers, Sarah.
Last few now. Let's have a look. A Man of Film. Our good friend Adam Amoon. Terror is a very solid opener to Series 13. The Zygons are subtle, creepy, and a brilliant adversary for this story. Cast are on point, particularly Angus. Great direction from Douglas Camfield too. 8 out of 10. Happy birthday, Tom Baker.
Nice. Cheers, Ad.
Neela's C. Very short and sweet. An absolute classic. Clapping hands emoji. Joel says it's a testament to the story that the Zygons managed to stick in the minds of viewers in the 70s. The story is full of atmosphere and the production values for the most part are good. The Zygons are instantly iconic and it's also great to hark back to the Pertwee era. 9 out of 10.
Cool.
And lastly, on Twitter, Morgan, a good friend Morgan, says, a sublime story with Hammer horror vibes. All the cast are superb, but Tom especially is on top form. And the Zygons are absolutely terrifying, pure chills. I loved how the Loch Ness Monster was incorporated. Sad to see Harry leave. 9 opera singing Tom Bakers out of 10. And we had a few over on Facebook. We had Patrick Bogard, who says, this was the first non-Dalek story I watched when BBC Two used to run Thunderbirds, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. and then Doctor Who. I remember the Zygon reveal with Sarah Jane scared the bejesus out of me. This story still holds up. Vintage Tom Baker, a 10 out of 10.
10.
Aaron Ball, hello there. Hope you're both well. I love this story. The Zygons are scary. A tad slow, but it works in the story's favour. The cliffhanger for part 1 is brilliant. Also, the story really has guts. Really hard-hitting. I'd give it 9 Zygons out of 10.
Cool.
My good friend Nick Gill says, brilliant story. Even if some of the monster effects are a little dated now. Nice and eerie in places. Superb turns by Angus Lenny as the landlord and John Woodnut as the Duke/Broton. Indeedy. Charlie Turner, best Zygon story in the show's history. Why they were not brought back on screen until 2013's Day of the Doctor. Oh well, still though, best Zygon story ever. And at this moment, from the big rubbery red things covered in suckers, that are surprisingly good kissers. 9 out of 10. Apparently they are. Joseph Howarth, one of my faves from the Fourth Doctor. The Zygons are terrific. They're a terrific creation who are sadly underused in the entire series. We need appearances from them in the new series, methinks. Anyways, the only bad thing about this story was definitely the Scarison. Seriously, the Scarison looks like a derpy dinosaur with a dead expression on its face. Yeah, we know about old derpy, unfortunately. It goes on to give it a 9 out of 10. Toby Coleman, I can't think of many negatives in regards to this one. Maybe Nessy looks a bit dated, but all in all, really good. It's a really good story of creepy atmosphere, 8 out of 10. And lastly, Aaron Lamb. It's become one of my favourite Fourth Doctor stories. I find it highly rewatchable. Robert Blank Stewart wrote a strong script, lots of engaging scenes that draw you in, like the landlord discussing disappearances in Tulloch Moor through the ages. The cast were on top form, really enjoy the TARDIS team, and the guest cast were particularly memorable. An 8.5.
Cool.
So, dude, I think our listeners are pretty much, we're all on the same page, I would say.
It's pretty positive. Yeah, pretty good stuff. I thought it would be.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Some good scores there. Very good. So thank you so much, everybody, for sending in your thoughts and reviews. It's very cool. And I figured out why you thought it was a Leela story.
Oh, why?
Yeah, so Big Finish put out a story a few years ago called Zygon Hunt, which is a Fourth Doctor and Leela story with Louise Jameson and Tom Baker. You probably saw the cover for that and listened to it and thought, yeah, this is potentially a Leela one.
I was going to say, actually, the Zygons lend themselves really well to Big Finish with those creepy voices, don't they? Yes, it wasn't that dude. It was Planet of Evil. I was getting confused with a Leela story.
Oh, sorry, right.
I think because there's a forest or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Zygon Hunt's not bad, though.
Yeah. From what I haven't listened to that for years, but I remember liking that one. Yeah,
not bad.
Old Big Finish.
Old Biggers. Yep. And next week, dude, we're back to Torchwood. What is it?
Indeed, yeah, an episode called Reset.
Reset as in reset the show?
I don't know. I can't even remember the trailer for it.
I can't, mate. No.
Anyway, yeah, Reset, whatever that is.
God, I haven't seen that in so long. Yeah. It's Martha Jones, right?
Oh, right, yes.
I think so.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that in ages. Cool.
Martha, yeah.
Yes, cool. All right. Well, a bit of Torchwood for next week. So but until then, though, let's wrap up, dude, for 296.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much for coming back and listening to another episode of the Big Blue Box podcast. It's been great to have you all here. Those of you that have just jumped on board, welcome. Those of you that are coming back, the old Grizzled Ancients, it's good to have you here as well. And thank you so much to all of you that have sent in your thoughts and reviews for Terror of the Zygons. It's been great to hear what all of you think. It's the best part of the show for us. Next week, as Adam said, we're back to Torchwood, and it is the episode Reset. So get your Blu-rays or DVDs fired up for that. And I think Torchwood is still on iPlayer at the moment. I think so anyway. So get that fired up as well, because we'll be asking for your thoughts and reviews as always for that. Next week for 297, let's hope we have a bit of news to talk through. We might have some Doctor Who news, who knows. But until then, make sure you subscribe to our podcast. Just do that on whatever podcast app you get your podcasts on. Just do a search of the Big Blue Box podcast. You'll find us on there. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. That way you won't miss a show when it lands every Friday. Or you can just head over to the website, bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. All of our episodes on there, plus there are links off to those various apps and so on. And we're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Just do a search or link off from the website. We chat Doctor Who throughout the week, so come and get involved there. And we have a free Discord server as well. There's a link to that on the website. Come and hang out with other Doctor Who fans and chat. Lots of different things to do with Doctor Who. So yes, come and do that. Also, come and check out my co-host's channel. He's only got his own channel over on YouTube. What's it called?
The Geeks Handbag.
The Geeks Handbag.
Yeah, working on some new vids as well now. I'm back in the saddle.
He's back in the game.
Yeah, back in the game. Go and have a look at all my old vids. They're good.
Yes. Loads of really cool stuff. I say this every week, and I'm not lying. There's so many cool videos over on Adam's channels. Years worth of very cool geekery stuff over there. There's reviews and unboxings and on-the-spot things and convention reports and location visits. It's a very, very cool channel. Go and grab a cup of tea and go and get lost in all that stuff. You won't regret that. So next week, as we said, Reset from Torchwood. We look forward to seeing what Martha's up to with those guys. Until then, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember, Allons-y.